This is about the anxious guy and the avoidant girl. You know the clash. He wants close, she wants space. You feel it, right? Why does every sweet text make her colder? Why do long talks fix nothing and you end up tired, confused, kinda angry? Why does do more keep failing again and again? Stay here, because today you'll learn a cleaner way. No games, no tricks, real detachment, smart absence, calm power. By the end, you'll have steps you can use tonight and peace in your chest tomorrow. All right, fast and clear. You like her. A lot. She says, I just need time. You hear, try harder. So you do. You send good morning. You plan dates. You listen for hours. You solve problems she never asked to solve. Your heart means well, but it's not landing. It's landing as pressure. That stings, I know. Let's name the clash in plain talk. Anxious means you feel safe when close. Avoidant means she feels safe when there's space. You run toward, she steps back. More steps from you, more steps from her. Ouch. It looks personal, but it's mostly patterns, like magnets flipping, click, then push. Not evil, just opposite settings. Here's the first truth that saves months of pain. Chasing doesn't build her trust. Calm distance does. Not cold, not rude, just a steady life that doesn't wobble every time her mood moves. Think of a campfire. It needs air. If you smother it with wood and hands and breath, poof, it dies. Space isn't a trick, it's oxygen. You've been told, prove yourself, show your aura, keep giving. Sounds noble, but it screams need. Need is heavy. Heavy makes people tense. Tense makes people leave. The fix is not do nothing. The fix is lead your life. When your life is full, work, gym, craft, friends, faith, sleep, your time gets real value. Scarcity, not fake, real. She can feel it. You can too. Let's get practical, because talk without tools is just noise. Start with mornings. Do not wake and scroll her page. Don't chase a feeling at 7 a.m. Get up, water, move your body for 10 minutes. Write 3 lines. What I build today, who I serve today. One hard thing done by noon. That's presence, that's ground. You'll text better later because you're not empty. Second tool, your reply rhythm. You don't ignore, you don't hover. You respond when you're free, not when you're frantic. Short, warm, clear. No essays, no therapy hour in a chat bubble. If she shares something heavy, try this. I hear you. That sounds a lot. I'm heading into a task. Let's talk at 7. Simple. Strong. You aren't running, you're scheduling. That's leadership, man. Dates, keep them real life, not rescue life. Pick a plan. Invite. I'm grabbing tacos Thursday at 7. Join if you want. Period. No selling. No please, please. You're not the store. You're the mountain. She can come hike. If she says she's unsure, you smile. All good, I'm going anyway. And you actually go. Yes, alone if needed. That's not a game. That's a man. Your body language matters more than words. Slow breath in, slow out, shoulders down, eyes steady. Speak in short lines. Avoid the what are we panic dump when things feel wobbly. That question comes later. When your standards are set and your head is cool. Today is about signal, not begging. Calm is the signal. You'll ask, but won't I lose her if I don't chase? Hear this? If chasing is the only thing keeping someone near, you already lost her. Hard truth, good truth, because now your hands are free. When you stop acting like a 24/7 emotional ATM, 2 things happen. 1, you get your time and peace back. 2, she gets to wonder about you again. Curiosity is attraction's older brother. Let's test your stance in 1 minute. If she takes hours to reply, does your day break? If plans change, do you spiral? If she pulls quiet, do you flood her phone to fix your feelings? If yes, cool, we found the work. The work is not be colder, the work is be fuller. Fill your day so your brain isn't starving for her ping to feel alive. Try a tiny protocol for the next 48 hours. You live normally, not stiff. You keep your plan, gym or a long walk. Task list with one thing you don't want to do, and you do it first. Eat clean once. Hydrate like you mean it. See a real friend in person. Laugh. Then when she texts, you answer like a person who has a pulse and a plan. Warm, short, invite when it's right. Then back to your life. Notice how your chest feels. Softer, stronger, good. Boundaries. They sound scary, but they keep love safe. You can say, I like time with you, and I also need time for my work and people. Let's do Sunday afternoon. That's not a speech, that's a line. If she keeps you in a half place for weeks, you can say, I'm looking for real time and real effort. If that's not you right now, it's okay. I'll step back and keep building my life. Clear, respectful, final. You'll feel the ground under your feet again. Boom. Remember the rule that flips this whole dynamic. You do not create your value by giving more. You reveal your value by needing less. Not less love, less approval. You approve you. You set your pace. You handle your emotions without dumping them on her. That's emotional mastery, not suppression. Control. You feel it. You choose your action. Quiet power. Last piece for today, absence. It will show up when you live this way. Don't fear it. You didn't vanish to make her chase. You're just not always available because your life is moving. That gap builds respect. Respect builds attraction, way better than candy and 100 heart texts. If she is right, she will lean in. If she is not, the space will reveal it fast, and you won't waste months trying to glue a puzzle that never fit. You're not her therapist. You're not her savior. You're a man with a mission who can share his table. Big difference. She can bring her light. You bring your frame. Two whole people, not one giver and one runner. That's the fix. Why trying to prove yourself kills attraction? Have you noticed how the harder you try to show her you're good enough, the faster she loses interest? Why does bending over backward, buying gifts, showing up every time she snaps her fingers, doing everything right, end with her pulling away? Why does proving yourself leave you emptier, not closer? And why does it feel like the more you give, the less she sees your value? Sit with that, because here's the brutal truth. Proving yourself is the very thing that destroys attraction. Let's start with the anxious man's trap. You think, if she just sees how much I care, how much I'm willing to do, then she'll finally choose me. It feels noble, like love, but in her eyes, it's pressure. Every see me, pick me, please validate me signal lowers your value. Not because you're bad, but because you're communicating one thing. I don't believe I'm enough unless you say I am. That's heavy. And people don't crave heavy, they crave strong. Now let's zoom out. Why do anxious men fall into this? Simple. Fear of loss. Fear that if you don't give more, she'll leave. So you chase, you explain, you fix, you overcompensate. But here's the twist. This fear makes you leak neediness, and nothing drains attraction faster than neediness. Think of it like water. If you keep pouring water into her cup while ignoring your own, eventually she doesn't see you as a source of strength. She sees you as a spill, overflow, mess. That's why men who chase often get treated as nice guys instead of desired men. Let me flip this upside down. Women don't want you to prove yourself. They want you to be yourself, and not the version that edits, pleads, or shows off. The version that moves through the world with purpose. Calm, centered, steady. But here's the problem. You were taught the opposite. Society, dating advice, even movies, they tell you to win her over. They sell you on grand gestures, dramatic speeches, constant giving. Sounds romantic, right? But in real life, it backfires. She doesn't see it as devotion. She sees it as desperation. And here's the question. Why does a man who is constantly giving feel invisible? Why does she respond better to the guy who barely tries? It's not unfair, it's psychology. Scarcity drives value, presence drives respect. Absence, when authentic, creates longing. But overgiving, it creates boredom. You ever notice this pattern? She doesn't text back, so you double text. She seems cold, so you over-explain. She doesn't make plans, so you plan harder. Each move makes her colder. It's not that she hates you, it's that you're confirming her suspicion. You don't have your own center. And if you don't lead yourself, how can you lead a life she'd want to join? Now let me hand you the solution that flips this script. Stop proving, start living. When your life is already filled with purpose, your work, your health, your craft, your mission, you stop broadcasting "validate me." You start broadcasting "this is who I am, this is where I'm going." And that energy makes women lean in, not pull away. Let's make this practical. Imagine you're texting her. Instead of saying, "Do you want to hang out? I'll go wherever you want. I'm free whenever you're free," which screams "I have nothing better," you say, "I'm heading to the new art exhibit Saturday. Join if you want." Done. Clear. Simple. Your life first. She joins because she wants to, not because you begged. That's detachment. That's value. Not a game, just alignment. Here's the deeper philosophy. Stoic wisdom teaches this. The man who controls himself controls the room. The anxious man tries to control her choice. The Stoic man controls his own path. That difference is magnetic. It's why people respect leaders, not followers. So ask yourself, where in your life are you chasing to prove instead of building to live? Where are you emptying yourself out in hopes of filling someone else? Where are you showing up like a salesman instead of a man with purpose? Fix that, and everything shifts. You'll feel lighter, she'll feel safer. And suddenly attraction doesn't die, it breathes, because here's the truth you must lock into your bones. Your worth is not built on how much you give, it's revealed by how steady you stand without needing to give at all. Stay tuned, in the next stage we'll dive into the silent power of mystery, how not explaining every move or emotion actually builds more trust, respect and pull than constant reassurance ever could. The trap of over-explaining yourself. Why do men feel the need to explain every move, every choice, every feeling to a woman? Why do you think if she just understands you fully, she'll finally feel secure and never leave? Why do you break your back trying to make her see your side, only to watch her grow colder? Why is it that the more words you use, the less power you hold? Pause right there, because this is a silent killer of attraction. Over-explaining. Let's break it down. An anxious man thinks love is about constant reassurance. He believes if he can explain his intentions, justify his actions, clarify his feelings, then she won't feel confused or upset. He thinks he's removing doubt. But the paradox is this: every time you explain yourself too much, you don't remove doubt, you plant it. Why? Because explanation often equals insecurity. Think about it. Imagine two men. One man tells his story in 3 sentences. Direct, clear, done. The other man rambles for 20 minutes, trying to cover every angle, overloading with detail. Which one feels more certain? Which one feels more steady? The short answer man. The first man projects, "I know who I am, I don't need you to approve it." The second projects, "I need you to agree with me, or I'll fall apart." Now ask yourself, how many times have you explained too much in a relationship? She says, "Why didn't you call last night?" And instead of simply saying, "I was focused on my project," you launch into a 5-minute speech. "I thought about calling, but then I got busy, and then my phone died, and I didn't want you to think I was ignoring you." But stop. Every extra word leaks power. This is the deeper problem. Over-explaining comes from a hidden belief. If she misunderstands me, I'll lose her. So you scramble, you justify, you try to control her perception. But here's the Stoic reality. You cannot control perception. You can only control presentation. And presentation is simple, calm, steady, clear. Now let's talk about women. Why does over-explaining push them away? Because mystery attracts, certainty attracts, brevity attracts. When you leave space, she fills it with curiosity. But when you fill every silence with explanation, you kill curiosity. You leave no room for her imagination, no room for her to lean in. This isn't about playing cold games, this is about discipline. Knowing that every explanation should have a boundary, not because you're hiding, but because you're secure. Here's a practical example. Let's say you cancel plans because you're exhausted. An anxious man will text, "I'm so sorry, I just had the worst day at work, then traffic, then my boss yelled at me, and I didn't want to disappoint you. I hope you're not mad. I promise I'll make it up." That's over-explaining. A confident man will say, "Can't make it tonight. Drained. We'll catch up soon." Done. No drama, no sales pitch. Notice the difference? The first man is begging not to be abandoned. The second man is stating reality and trusting that if she values him, she'll understand. And that's the secret. Over-explaining is fear in disguise, brevity is strength in action. But here's the question. Why do men feel like they'll lose everything if they don't explain? Why does silence scare you more than her disinterest? Why do you think the solution to conflict is always more talking? The answer is conditioning. You were taught that women leave because men don't communicate enough. But communication isn't measured in volume, it's measured in clarity, in calmness, in conviction. Too much communication isn't connection, it's noise, and noise always drowns respect. So how do you break the cycle? By practicing restraint, not silence. Restraint. You don't shut down or ignore. You simply state your truth once, clearly, and let it stand. That's leadership, that's stability, that's stoicism in relationships. Because a man who can sit in silence without rushing to defend himself communicates something far more powerful than words. I am steady, I am enough, I don't need to convince you. And women feel that, deeply. Here's the lesson you must lock in. Stop chasing approval through explanation. Your value doesn't rise with more words, it rises with fewer, chosen with precision. The illusion of effort equals love. Why do so many men think love is about effort, constant effort? Why do you push harder, give more, sacrifice more, believing that the more you do, the more she'll value you? Why do you drain yourself thinking devotion will guarantee loyalty? And why, after all that effort, do you often end up invisible? Pause and think. Because this is one of the biggest traps men fall into, confusing effort with attraction. Let's break it open. From childhood, men are told, if you want something, work for it. Want good grades? Study harder. Want success? Hustle longer. Want respect? Earn it. The formula makes sense in school, in sports, in business, but in love, this formula breaks. Because attraction doesn't rise with effort. In fact, sometimes the opposite happens. Why? Because effort in relationships can look like chasing, and chasing communicates one dangerous message. She's the prize, you're the pursuer. Now ask yourself, have you ever gone out of your way to impress a woman, to show her your loyalty, to prove you're serious, only to watch her grow distant? Have you ever bent your schedule, changed your habits, rearranged your life for her, and instead of gratitude you got coldness? Have you ever been told, you're such a nice guy, but after giving your best? That's the loop of heartbreak. The harder you try, the less she feels. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Love is not a wage system. It's not something you earn with extra hours, extra texts, extra gifts. It's energy, it's pull, it's natural magnetism, and magnetism dies when you force it. A Stoic man understands this. He knows his value isn't proven by how much he gives away. It's revealed by how he lives. That's the difference. Here's a scenario. An anxious man sees her pulling away. He panics. He starts buying gifts, writing long messages, planning surprise dates, trying to remind her how much he cares. But she doesn't feel closer. She feels suffocated, because behind all the effort, she doesn't see strength. She sees fear. A Stoic man sees the same situation. She's distant. He doesn't force connection. He doesn't beg for closeness. He continues with his life, his projects, his growth, his standards, and if she values him, she moves back towards him. Not because he chased, but because his stability pulled her. That's the paradox. Effort without balance destroys desire. Presence with self-respect fuels it. Now let's dig deeper. Why does constant effort fail? Because it creates an unequal exchange. One person is investing endlessly, the other is simply receiving. And what happens when people get things too easily without challenge? They value it less. Scarcity creates value. Availability without limit kills it. And this is where men confuse kindness with weakness. Yes, kindness matters, care matters, but when kindness becomes your entire strategy, it loses its power. Women don't want a servant, they want a man with purpose, standards, and boundaries. A man who gives not out of fear of losing, but out of fullness of life. So let me ask you, why do you think bending over backwards ever made someone love you more? Why do you think buying her attention builds desire? Why do you think exhausting yourself will make her see your worth? If worth had to be proven, it wouldn't be worth. Worth is recognized by how you carry yourself, by how you hold to your mission, by how you refuse to trade your essence just for approval. And that's where Stoicism comes in. Detachment is not coldness, it's clarity. It says, I don't prove myself by running, I prove myself by being. Practical example, she texts late at night, come over now. The anxious man cancels his plans, rushes out, proves he's available anytime. He thinks this shows love, but she doesn't feel love. She feels control. She feels his world bending around hers. The Stoic man, he might go if it aligns with his night. He might not if it doesn't. Either way, his life doesn't revolve around a single request. That's power. The message is clear. Love built on effort alone collapses. Love built on standards, purpose, and self-worth grows. So what's the lesson? Stop selling yourself through sweat. Start living in a way where your presence speaks louder than your effort. Be the man whose life is already full. That's when she wants to join it. Let me hit you with this question right away. What happens when a man gives away his emotions too freely? Think about it. Every text answered instantly. Every feeling poured out the moment it arises. Every detail of his mind revealed without her even needing to ask. Sounds honest, right? Sounds open. But here's the trap. When you put your emotions on the table like cheap cards, their value drops. She doesn't treasure them. She doesn't respect them. She doesn't even feel the need to earn them. Now here's the real problem. Modern men are being taught that the only way to connect with women is through constant emotional dumping, oversharing, explaining, justifying, proving how much they care. But let me ask you, have you noticed how this usually backfires? Instead of drawing her closer, she pulls away. Instead of admiration, you get pity. Instead of attraction, you get boredom. Why? Because emotions given without control are not seen as strength, they're seen as weakness. So the real question is, how do you balance emotion without turning cold? How do you reveal enough to stay human, but still keep that aura of mystery, control, and respect? This is where most men crash. Either they become stone walls, closed off, robotic, unreadable, or they become emotional waterfalls, pouring, flooding, drowning everything. Both extremes kill attraction. Women don't want a man with no heart, but they also don't want a man who can't manage his heart. Here's the secret you've been missing. True value lies in selective expression. A Stoic man doesn't suppress his emotions, he masters them. He decides when to reveal, how much to reveal, and to whom he reveals. He knows that his emotions are not a public tap, they're a guarded treasure. Think of it this way. If every stranger could walk into a vault and grab gold for free, would gold still mean anything? Of course not. Scarcity creates worth. Controlled access creates demand. The same is true for your emotional world. And let's make this practical. Instead of explaining your every mood, practice restraint. When you feel anger, don't explode. Pause, breathe, respond with calm words. When you feel love, don't flood her with desperate texts. Show it through consistent presence, action, and composure. When you feel pain, don't collapse into begging. Stand firm, acknowledge it, but don't let it control you. Every time you choose control over reaction, you increase your value in her eyes. She sees you as steady, grounded, unshaken, and that's the kind of man who's rare. That's the kind of man who's respected. Here's something most men never think about. Women test not what you say, but how you handle yourself under pressure. If she raises her voice, do you match her chaos, or do you remain unshaken? If she pulls back, do you panic, or do you remain calm and certain? If she ignores you, do you chase, or do you let her feel the silence? Every reaction you choose is a signal. Weak reactions scream neediness. Controlled responses signal strength. And strength, my friend, is irresistible. So here's the lesson. Stop being emotionally predictable. Stop handing out your feelings like free samples at the mall. Instead, show her that your emotions are something she must earn. Give her glimpses, not the full picture. Show depth, but don't drown her in it. Be expressive, but controlled. In this balance, you create a tension she can't resist. She'll lean in, she'll wonder, she'll want to understand more. And that curiosity is attraction at its purest form. Now let me ask you, if your emotions became treasures instead of giveaways, if your reactions became signals of strength instead of weakness, if your presence carried weight because you chose when and how to reveal yourself, wouldn't that make you the kind of man women crave but rarely find? That's the power of mastering emotional control, not shutting down, not oversharing, but choosing with precision. And once you master this, you stop chasing validation. Let me throw this question at you. Why do women test men, even when they're interested in them? Why would a woman say something that feels disrespectful, or ignore your call on purpose, or push your buttons just to see how you'll react? Why does she sometimes create small storms out of nowhere? Is she trying to sabotage things? Is she cruel? No, the truth is deeper than that. She's not trying to break you, she's trying to measure you. Here's the uncomfortable reality most men never figure out. Every woman you deal with will test you, consciously or unconsciously. It's not because she's evil, it's because she needs to know. Can you handle pressure? Can you remain strong when challenged? Can you stand firm when emotions rise? Because if you can't, she won't feel safe giving you her heart, her trust, or her loyalty. Now let me ask you this. How many times have you failed these tests without even realizing it? When she pulled away, did you panic and chase? When she gave you the silent treatment, did you beg for her attention? When she questioned your goals, did you get defensive instead of standing confident? Every time you crack under pressure, you show her something she can never unsee, that you're not the rock she was hoping for, but the sand that collapses when waves hit. And here's the big problem. Most men confuse these tests with rejection. They think, she ignored me so she doesn't care, or she criticized me so she doesn't respect me. But in reality, she was watching not your words but your reaction. Attraction isn't about what you tell her, it's about what you show her when things get hard. So let's get into the core lesson. Tests are not obstacles, they're opportunities. They're your chance to prove your value without saying a word. When she gives you attitude, can you smile calmly instead of snapping back? When she challenges your decisions, can you stand by them without collapsing into doubt? When she tries to pull you into drama, can you stay grounded and refuse to drown? Each time you pass, you rise in her eyes. You stop being just another man, and you become the man. Think about it like this. A king doesn't argue with peasants to prove he's a king. His presence alone communicates power. In the same way, you don't argue or over-explain to pass a test. You demonstrate composure, patience, and self-control. You hold your frame. That's the difference between a boy seeking approval and a man who commands respect. Now, here's something you've probably never been told. Women don't even consciously know why they test you. It's instinct. It's in their wiring. She doesn't wake up and plan, "I'll ignore his text for 5 hours to see if he loses his mind." No, her instincts push her to find out if you're stable, because a man who falls apart under minor stress will collapse under real-life pressure, and no woman wants to tie her life to a man who can't stand strong. So let's flip the script. Instead of seeing tests as annoyances, start seeing them as a stage where you either rise or crumble. When she withdraws attention, don't panic, stay focused on your mission. When she tries to stir conflict, don't escalate. Stay calm and direct. When she doubts you, don't argue, prove through consistent action. Your composure is louder than your words. This is why most men lose attraction fast. They think women want perfection. No, what she really wants is stability. She wants to know that when the storm comes, you won't break. And the only way she can find out, by testing you. If you pass, her respect grows. If you fail, her attraction dies. Simple as that. So let me ask you, the next time she tests you, will you see it as a threat? Or will you recognize it for what it truly is? A chance to show strength, control, and presence. Because here's the truth. Men who embrace tests don't just survive in relationships, they thrive. They stop fearing rejection because they understand every moment of pressure is a chance to prove they're rare. And once you master this mindset, you'll never again confuse her tests for disrespect. Let me hit you with a hard truth. Attention is currency. Every look, every reply, every second of your time, she feels it, she measures it, she interprets it. And here's the part most men never realize. When you give attention too freely, it loses all value. Just like money, when there's too much of it in circulation, it becomes worthless. But when it's scarce, when it's selective, it becomes powerful, it becomes desired, it becomes addictive. Now ask yourself, have you ever drowned a woman in attention, thinking it would make her see your worth? Did you text her all day, reply instantly, call her just to check in, and always be available? And what happened? Did she lean in closer, or did she pull away? Did she crave you more, or did she start acting like you were replaceable? The problem isn't that you cared. The problem is that you gave away the one thing that should have been protected, your focus. Why does this happen? Why does too much attention turn into poison? Because deep down, humans value what's limited. When something is everywhere, it feels common. When something is rare, it feels special. So if your attention is endless, it stops being a gift and becomes background noise. And the worst part, it signals something dangerous, that you don't have a bigger mission than her, that your life revolves around her. And once she feels that, the respect begins to die. Let me ask you this. Why do you think women chase men who don't flood them with energy? Why do women stay hooked on men who don't reply instantly, who don't drop everything for them, who aren't constantly seeking validation? Is it because those men are cold? No, it's because their attention means something. They give it selectively. They give it when it's earned, not just because they're bored or desperate for connection. That's what creates pull. And here's the real kicker. Attention doesn't just affect attraction, it affects power. The person who needs attention the most holds the least leverage. If you're the one constantly pouring out focus, waiting for crumbs in return, you've already lost balance. You've handed her control without even realizing it. But when you redirect your attention back to yourself, your goals, your growth, your world, You become scarce again, and that scarcity makes her want what she can't fully have. This isn't about manipulation, it's about truth. The truth is, a man who values himself naturally doesn't give all his energy away. He guards his time, he invests it wisely, he spends it on his mission, his health, his craft, his circle. And because of that, when he does give attention, it feels rare, it feels earned, it feels powerful. That's what pulls her in, not endless availability, but meaningful presence. Now think about this carefully. Are you leaking attention to someone who doesn't even deserve it? Are you spending energy on late-night texts, on scrolling her feed, on worrying about what she's doing instead of building your life? How many hours have you lost chasing her approval instead of creating a world that makes her want to be part of it? That's the problem most men refuse to face. They give everything away, then wonder why nothing comes back. Here's the shift. Stop treating attention like water. Start treating it like gold. Not everyone deserves it. Not every moment earns it. And when you finally start valuing it, women will too. They'll notice the difference. They'll crave it. They'll chase it. Because deep down, every woman wants a man who isn't consumed by her. She wants a man who's consumed by his purpose and still chooses to share a part of himself with her. That's where attraction lives. That's where respect grows. So let me leave you with this question. The next time you're about to send that extra text, that extra call, that extra piece of yourself, ask, am I giving away treasure or am I throwing away scraps? Because once you learn to protect your attention, you stop being just another man in her phone. You become the man she can't stop thinking about. Here's something most men never stop to think about. Why do women test men emotionally? Why do they push buttons, question you, sometimes even create little storms? It's not because they're cruel, it's because deep down they want to feel safe. They want to see if the man standing in front of them can handle pressure, chaos, conflict. And here's the problem. Most men fail this test. They explode, they overreact, they argue, beg or panic. And in that moment, they lose all the attraction they built. Let me ask you, how many times have you let your emotions run the show? Have you ever snapped at a small comment, sent 10 angry texts in a row, or lost sleep over something that wasn't even that big? And what did it cost you? Respect? Peace? Maybe even the relationship? The truth is, men who lack emotional control always find themselves in the same cycle, constantly chasing, constantly apologizing, constantly trying to fix the damage they caused. Why does this keep happening? Because most men were never taught that emotional mastery is the real sign of strength. Society says, be tough, be bold, be loud. But women don't feel safe around men who can't control their inner storms. Think about it. If a man can't handle his own emotions, how can he handle life's challenges? How can he be trusted in moments of crisis? How can he be a source of stability when she feels overwhelmed herself? Now, here's the part that flips everything. You don't have to suppress emotions to master them. Suppression is weakness. It builds pressure until you explode. Mastery is different. Mastery means feeling the emotion, but choosing how you act. Anger comes, you breathe. Jealousy shows up, you observe it. Fear creeps in, you remind yourself it's just a feeling, not the truth. That's control, that's power. So let's loop back to the problems men face when they don't build this muscle. Without emotional control, you react to every mood she has. If she pulls away, you panic. If she tests you, you fight back or fold. If she ignores you, you spiral. And what happens next? You start acting like a boy, not a man. You give her the steering wheel, and now she's driving the relationship while you're just trying not to crash. That dynamic kills attraction every single time. But think about the alternative. Imagine you walk into chaos, but your face doesn't flinch. Imagine she tests you, and you don't chase, you don't fight, you just smile calmly and keep living your life. Imagine she expects you to break down, but instead you stay solid. Do you realize how rare that is today? Most men can't do it, and that's why the man who can, he becomes unforgettable. He becomes magnetic, because here's the secret: calmness is rare. Scarcity again, and just like we talked before, scarcity creates value. Emotional calmness is the kind of scarcity that women crave the most. Not fake calmness, not pretending, but real, grounded stillness. That's the kind of energy that says, I don't just survive storms, I am the storm, and I'll still be here standing when it passes. That's what creates safety. That's what builds respect. That's what deepens attraction. Now let's get brutally honest. How often are you losing women? Not because you're unattractive, not because you don't have value, but simply because you can't control your reactions. How often are you letting emotions dictate your moves instead of mastering them? That's the trap, and unless you fix it, the cycle never ends. But once you build that control, everything shifts. You stop chasing. You stop arguing over small things. You stop being thrown off balance every time she pulls away. Instead, you become the anchor, the calm center in the middle of her storm. And trust me, no woman forgets the man who can make her feel safe, steady and grounded without saying a single word. So here's the question you need to ask yourself right now. Are you letting emotions control you, or are you learning to control them? Because the man who can master his inner world, he masters his outer world too. And that's when women stop testing and start trusting. That's when they stop doubting and start desiring. That's when attraction moves from surface to something much deeper. Let me bring it all home now, because if you've followed this far, you've probably asked yourself, so what's the real answer? What's the actual solution? What's the one thing I can take away and use starting today? The solution has been in front of you the whole time. It's not about chasing, it's not about games, it's not about proving, it's not even about women, it's about you, about who you become, about the life you build, about the way you choose to stand in this world. Here's the blunt truth. Men fail in relationships because they hand over their power. They build their entire identity around a woman's approval, her attention, her moods. They think that's love, but it's not love, it's attachment. And attachment without strength, it kills attraction, it kills respect, and it kills you slowly inside. So let's cut through the noise. The real solution is this: stop asking where you stand with her. Start asking where you stand with yourself. Do you respect your own time? Do you protect your own energy? Do you live by your own standards? Or do you bend, shrink, and compromise just to keep someone from leaving? That's the heart of the problem. Men who are truly free don't chase approval because their life is already full. They don't demand constant reassurance because they know their worth. They don't collapse when someone pulls away because their foundation is built on purpose, not on a person. And when you live this way, everything changes. Think about it. A man with standards doesn't need to ask, "Does she love me?" He already knows that if she can't meet him where he stands, she doesn't belong in his life. A man with standards doesn't beg for time. He values his own enough that anyone who doesn't respect it gets no access. A man with standards doesn't fear absence because his presence already has weight. And that's when a woman feels it, the gravity of a man who lives by his own code. Now let me make it crystal clear. I'm not saying you don't give. I'm not saying you don't care. Love is still about connection. But connection only has value when it's chosen freely, not out of fear, not out of desperation, not out of emptiness. The highest form of love comes when two whole people choose to share their lives, not when one person abandons himself to earn a place in another's. And here's the final test for you. Ask yourself right now, if she walked away tomorrow, would you still stand strong? Would you still have purpose? Would you still have a life worth living? If the answer is no, that's the problem. If the answer is yes, then you're already walking the path. Because the man who is unshaken by absence is the man whose presence cannot be ignored. So the solution was never about chasing her harder. It was never about finding the right line or the perfect move. The solution was always about you, your standards, your self-worth, your freedom, your purpose, your calmness, your strength. And when you live by that, you don't have to ask where you stand. She'll know, everyone will know, because you'll radiate it without saying a word. That's it. That's the answer. The proof has been here in every page, every lesson. You don't need to try harder. You don't need to become someone else. You need to remember who you are and refuse to trade it away.